Have you ever walked past a homeless person on the street? Their eyes pleading for help? Their presence a stark reminder of society's failure? It's a scene familiar to many urban dwellers, yet the deeper complexities behind this crisis often remain shrouded in obscurity. The homelessness industrial complex, a hidden network of interests and incentives that thrives on the perpetuation of human suffering. Think of a world where compassion meets capitalism, where the noble cause of ending homelessness clashes with the profit-driven motives of a select few. This is the reality we confront into the homelessness crisis, peeling back the layers of misinformation and apathy that shield it from public scrutiny. In this, we'll know the uncomfortable truths that lie beneath the surface of charity galas and government initiatives. We'll shine a light on the key players in this complex ecosystem, from influential politicians and wealthy developers to nonprofit executives and opportunistic contractors. But most importantly, we'll amplify the voices of those who are often silenced by society, the homeless themselves. In the downtown, amidst the towering skyscrapers and bustling streets, lies a community that is often overlooked and marginalized: the homeless. Their presence is a stark reminder of the stark disparities that exist within our society, where wealth and privilege seem to coexist with poverty and neglect. Yet despite the growing visibility of this crisis, few seem willing to confront the root causes or implement meaningful solutions. In the shadows of luxury condominiums and gourmet cafes, makeshift tents and cardboard shelters dot the sidewalks, serving as humble abodes for those who have been left behind by society. Their faces tell stories of struggle and resilience, reflecting the harsh realities of life on the streets. Despite the opulence that surrounds them, the homeless remain invisible to many, their voices drowned out by the cacophony of urban life. One of the most glaring reasons behind this collective apathy is the intricate web of interests and incentives that make up what some have termed the homelessness industrial complex. At its core, this complex is driven by profit-seeking entities that benefit from the perpetuation of homelessness rather than its resolution. From real estate developers who capitalize on cheap land prices in blighted neighborhoods, to non-profit organizations that rely on donations to maintain their operations, there are numerous stakeholders with a vested interest in maintaining the status quo. Also, government agencies often find it easier and more cost-effective to manage homelessness rather than eradicate it entirely. This perpetuates a cycle where temporary solutions, such as shelters and soup kitchens, become the norm rather than long-term strategies to address the root causes of homelessness. Additionally, the lack of political will to allocate sufficient resources and enact comprehensive policies further entrenches the problem, leaving the homeless population to languish on the fringes of society. Politicians, too, play a significant role in perpetuating the homelessness crisis, often prioritizing the interests of wealthy donors and corporate lobbyists over the needs of the most vulnerable members of society. In many cases, their policies serve to criminalize homelessness rather than address its underlying causes, leading to a cycle of incarceration and recidivism that further entrenches individuals in poverty. Even the lack of affordable housing policies and the prioritization of gentrification projects in urban areas contribute to the displacement of low-income residents, pushing them further into homelessness. This intersection of economic interests, political agendas, and societal biases creates a formidable barrier to implementing effective solutions to the homelessness crisis. The media often perpetuates harmful stereotypes of homelessness, portraying it as a personal failing rather than a systemic issue. However, grassroots organizations and activists are challenging this narrative by providing essential services, advocating for structural reforms, and amplifying the voices of the homeless. They emphasize solidarity and community building, working with other marginalized groups to address broader social justice issues. Through education and outreach, they seek to dispel myths and stereotypes about homelessness and foster empathy within the community. These efforts prioritize human dignity and empowerment over punitive measures, offering hope and resistance in the face of indifference and exploitation. Housing First initiatives, for example, recognize that stable housing is a fundamental human right and provide permanent housing to individuals experiencing homelessness without preconditions such as sobriety or employment. However, Despite the proven effectiveness of such approaches, they remain woefully underfunded and underutilized in many communities. This raises questions about the underlying priorities and values of our society. Are we truly committed to ending homelessness, or are we content to simply manage its symptoms while allowing the underlying causes to persist? In the final analysis, the homelessness crisis is not simply a matter of inadequate resources or logistical challenges. It is a reflection of the broader social and economic inequalities that define our world. As long as we continue to prioritize profit over people, individualism over collective responsibility, and punishment over compassion, the cycle of homelessness will persist. It is only by confronting the homelessness industrial complex head-on and demanding systemic change that we can hope to build a more just and equitable society for all. Beyond the structural barriers to addressing homelessness lie deeper societal attitudes and prejudices that contribute to its perpetuation. The homeless are often stigmatized and marginalized, viewed as lazy or undeserving of assistance. In reality, the factors contributing to homelessness are complex and multifaceted, often rooted in systemic issues such as poverty, lack of affordable housing, and inadequate access to mental health services and substance abuse treatment. Many individuals experiencing homelessness are victims of circumstances beyond their control, such as job loss, eviction, or family breakdown. Cities and communities across the country are implementing innovative strategies to prevent and end homelessness, from expanding access to affordable housing to providing wraparound services such as case management, healthcare, and employment assistance. One such approach is Housing First, which prioritizes providing individuals experiencing homelessness with immediate access to permanent housing, without preconditions such as sobriety or participation in treatment programs. Policies aimed at increasing the availability of affordable housing, expanding access to healthcare and mental health services, and addressing income inequality are critical components of any comprehensive strategy to end homelessness. At the same time, it is essential to recognize that homelessness is not solely a housing issue, but also a symptom of deeper societal problems. As long as we continue to prioritize profit over people and perpetuate harmful stereotypes and prejudices, the cycle of homelessness will persist. In order to truly address homelessness, we must confront the underlying systemic issues that contribute to it, including poverty, inequality, and discrimination. This will require a concerted effort from policymakers, community leaders, advocates, and individuals across society to prioritize the needs of the most vulnerable members of our communities and work together to build a more just and equitable society for all. The issue of homelessness persists as a complex and multifaceted challenge that demands urgent attention and concerted action. Despite the myriad factors contributing to its perpetuation, from systemic inequalities to profit-driven interests, there are glimmers of hope in the form of grassroots movements and community activism. These efforts not only provide essential support to those experiencing homelessness, but also advocate for systemic reforms and challenge the status quo. By centering the voices and experiences of the homeless themselves, these movements work to dispel stereotypes, foster empathy, and mobilize support for comprehensive solutions. As we confront the homelessness crisis, it is imperative that we recognize the interconnectedness of social justice issues and work collaboratively to address the root causes of inequality and exclusion. Only through solidarity and collective action can we hope to build a more equitable and compassionate society for all. Also, do like, share, and subscribe.